speaking of movies with flying creatures in it, we now go over to the Alfred Hitchcock classic The Boards from 1963, in which this wealthy woman has a sort of creepy desire to get with this one guy she saw for like 5 seconds and follows him to a small California town on the bay. It's beautiful, and then hey, these boards start attacking and it's all out chaos. So yeah, it's a if you just look at the story like an overall view, it's not necessarily a complicated movie. I do think it stands up decently well. It's perhaps a bit longer than it needs to be. It's almost a 2-hour movie. But I think there's a decent amount of suspense being built, and slowly there's more and more inaccurate attacks, and it's maybe a small thing about flying into somebody, then a bit of snapping during the birthday party. But then once they sort of swarm upon the town, it's just all out chaos. It's beautiful, and I actually found myself enjoying this one quite a bit more than I thought I would, based on the last time I saw it.
Well, it's the first time I've seen this movie because, as we know, I don't really care to watch too many films from before the 70s. And yeah, no, this movie's not for me. It's, I mean, I enjoyed Psycho quite a bit for a movie from, being before the 70s and all, but yeah, this movie, I didn't really pick up on any or much of the suspense that you did. And I don't know, maybe that's because in Australia, getting attacked by birds is a normal, everyday thing. It happens all the time here. Like, I was earlier this year, when I was dropping my daughter off to school, I saw one of the other kids getting attacked by a bird, and I was just laughing about it because it was funny. So therefore, I mean, if it's not scary in real life, like that type of situation, I'm probably not going to find it all that thrilling in a movie either.
Well, that probably just goes to show how hardcore you Australian people are.
Yeah, well, and when it comes to birds, yeah, I mean, you can go on YouTube and you can search for magpie attacks and things like that, and I'm sure you'll find heaps of videos of people just getting attacked by birds.
Oh, you might be lucky enough to find a beautiful movie directed by Hitchcock.
Yeah, maybe. Well, speaking of which, I will give the movie that much, that there are quite a lot of parts to the movie where, the scenery is really nice. It's a movie that's shot pretty well. Like visually. It's just, yeah, I just didn't really get any suspense out of it, or... I mean, even the bird attacking scenes, I get that, back in the day, those type of effects were, about as good as you're gonna get. But watching green screen type things like that happening all throughout, even when they're driving, that's one of those things where they're driving, you can clearly tell they've got, like, I don't know, they've spliced two things together there, so yeah, it's just something that kind of bugs me when they do that.
Well, I think on the upside, at least the movie has better effects than Birdemic did.
Yeah, but I guess, I mean, I haven't seen Birdemic, but obviously I've seen little bits and pieces of it. And even though I can definitely say The Bird's probably by far a better movie, who knows, maybe I would actually be more entertained by Birdemic, I don't know.
Birdemic is certainly entertaining, but how can you beat a beautiful 2-hour bird attack movie in wonderful color?
In which the bird attacks don't really happen until about an hour in.
Indeed, and that is something I wanted to... It's a good segue time, because I think one of the first best scenes in this movie, there's I think 2 scenes or sequences that really stand out for me. One being the classic scene in which the main actress is smoking while behind her on the jungle gym, more and more birds are flying to the gym, and then she looks up and sees a bird and looks behind her, and hey, the whole jungle gym is covered with birds. And they're not they're not like attacking or anything, they're just sitting there. But as a viewer, like, oh hey, that's some stuff is about to go down. And she slowly walks away and is able to get the kids out of the schoolhouse before they all die. But as Jackie said, some of them still attacked, and it's somewhat amusing. But then it segues into, I think, another fantastic sequence in which she enters like the local hotspot, talks to a few people. Some people argue about whether or not boards attacking is actually happening, and there's like about 10 minutes of conversation, and then, hey, another beautiful board attack as they swoop down with a wonderful bird's eye view of the bay, swoop down and cause all this mayhem. And it's beautiful. There's some explosions, a bunch of people panicking, running around, and I know that sequence right there is probably one of my favorites in the movie, because afterwards there's just a bunch of almost slow burn stuff going on in the house, which isn't as interesting. So I would say that's probably my personal highlight of the movie.
Yeah, well, when the mother character, she finds that dead body, and it looks like the eyes have been gouged out, and I mean, obviously, you know, that gave me a little hope for the rest of the movie, but
only to be taken away. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, nothing really much more. I mean, there was, you know, the one guy that burned alive after, I can't remember if it was cigarette or cigar, but anyways, you know, he dies pretty epically. But yeah, aside from those two, and maybe the it's the end of the world guy, I mean,
that guy's pretty funny.
Yeah, he was enjoyable, but yeah, I didn't have enough here for a 2-hour movie to enjoy. Speaking of which, was it the lead actress who said her job was finding 4-letter words? Was that her?
I'm going to say yes, only because I forget.
Okay, well, I got a few 4-letter words for her. Fuck this shit.
Hey, I thought she did the most beautiful job.
Yeah, I guess.
I do think it's somewhat interesting, actually, where the movie goes toward the end. You know, there's a scene in which one of the characters walks into a room that they suspect boards have broken into, and they have... The reason that she walks into the room isn't exactly made clear. But this character does, so that then gets swarmed by boards and gets fucked up pretty badly, actually. I mean, it's not like a brutal scene, but it has some decent quality to it. And then, like, for the rest of the movie, and admittedly there's not that much left in the movie, maybe 10 minutes, 15 at most, but for the rest of the movie she's just like in a complete catatonic shock. So, you know, it's fun that individual, from pretty much being the main character to being entirely useless in the last 15 minutes, so that's fun.
I guess one other thing that I'll just quickly mention, just another small thing that I enjoyed, was when that one woman who had the 2 kids at the diner or whatever it was, and she starts freaking out at the lead actress in the movie, saying, you know, it's all your fault, whatever, and she got slapped. That felt good. I enjoy watching crazy people get slapped.
I mean, but let's think about the children who had to watch the mother get physically abused just because of an opinion. Tisk, tisk.
They're already traumatized by people talking about killer birds, and now they're watching their mother get the smackdown. Whoosh! Yeah. Yeah, so given my love of movies from before the 70s, or lack thereof.
I do believe we will eventually find something maybe you almost enjoy.
Well, hey, Psycho was enjoyable.
There you go.
And, you know, for obvious enough reasons, but yeah, The Birds, it's not for me. I'm giving it a 4 out of 10, and that's mainly, like I said earlier, mainly it's probably because I just don't find birds attacking people to be all that scary. Like I said, happens every day here in Australia, so if the scare factor of that's taken out, or the suspense factor, we'll say suspense factor, because I can't see anyone, well, I don't know, if people are watching this and they're saying, oh, I'm so scared, I'd have to give them a reality check. But yeah, like, for a 2-hour movie, there's just not enough enjoyable scenes for me. You know, there's a few quick moments that were somewhat entertaining, but yeah, nowhere near enough to sustain a 2-hour runtime.
Yeah, so I might agree partially that the movie may run a bit longer than it needs to. At the same time, I think we can all agree this is probably one of the best movies made from 1963. So I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10. I think a lot of the slow building up of the boards attacking, I think it's done pretty well. There's a few scenes of maybe a little more violence than you might expect, like you mentioned, finding the body that was had its eyes popped out, and then there's also the violence towards children, which nowadays might not look like much, but it's not too often you see like children of that age range getting attacked by anything. So kudos there. I don't know, to me, I found it a pretty enjoyable movie, which, like I said at the beginning, sort of surprised me because when I first saw this, many years ago, I had much, maybe pretty similar opinion that Chucky had. There was maybe a bit slow and not enough going in it to entertain me. But nowadays, I find it pretty enjoyable, so 9 out of 10 seems like a pretty fair rating.
Well, I would have considered a 5 maybe if the movie was trimmed by 30-40 minutes.
Well, maybe the next time they make a 2-hour movie with attacking pterodactyls, it will just come over about it.
Yes.